Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the ORA News broadcast. It is time once again for our daily English news edition, and I'm Daniel Cook, your host, weekdays at 6 p.m. The scheduled plenary session did not take place today in Kosovo. The opposition members released tear gas for a third time, preventing the session from beginning. The MPs of the self-determination movement have declared that they will not withdraw from their attitude until the government repeals the agreements it signed with Serbia and Montenegro. The leader of their parliamentary group claimed that the Assembly Speaker and the President are deepening the institutional crisis and that the government has not considered the arguments of the opposition. He said that the opposition will not allow the plenary session to be held and that his party is protecting the interests of the state. Through a posting on their social network, the self-determination movement admitted that it was the opposition who sprayed the tear gas. They accused the Assembly Speaker of blinding the parliament with police forces and arresting the MPs and citizens. The Kosovo media are reporting that the tear gas was released by an MP from the Alliance for the Future of Kosovo. Sources from the General Tax Directory have revealed that certain representatives of big business are expected to be arrested by the end of this month for fiscal evasion. These businesses were caught committing tax evasion during the first phase of the operation against informality in the months of September and October. The companies operate in several different industries and in different cities. Recently, the Parliament adopted amendments to the criminal code that include prison time of 3 to 10 years for this offense, depending on the amount of economic damage caused. Arresting these business people will be the second step after finding their businesses for various forms of informality and tax evasion. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Finance has given warning that there will be detailed audits of 46 large companies, which have been selected by the system as having a high risk of tax evasion. The European Parliament reporter for Albania declared today that the reformation of the justice system is the key for Albania opening the EU negotiations. Mr. Knut Fleckenstein made the following statement: "If the opposition and majority adopt the judicial reform in the first half of 2016, I will do everything in my power for the opening of negotiations in the second half. There are many who think like me in Brussels," said Fleckenstein. He announced that he will be taking a message to Brussels about the developments of the country. "The message that I will take to my colleagues will be that despite the disagreements between the opposition and the majority, despite the difficulties that exist, my opinion is that the politicians really want to progress. They want the reforms to be successful, and they want the country to be ready for EU membership. We should give them our support." Mr. Fleckenstein was optimistic about the consensus that was reached between the majority and the opposition on the decriminalization process, a process that he negotiated himself in December of 2014. The EP reporter praised the reforms that have been undertaken by the government so far and the role of the opposition in important issues for the country. Lastly, he expressed the belief that the fight against corruption and organized crime will help attract foreign investors to Albania. The Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta, Prime Minister Edi Rama, and the high officials of the allied parties held a meeting today focused on the justice reform and the adoption of the decriminalization law. The Interior Minister Saimir Tahiri, the Justice Minister Nasip Nacho, the head of the Special Commission on Justice Reform, Fatmir Jafai, and the heads of the parliamentary groups were also present at the meeting. The Assembly Speaker left the meeting early and gave a short statement to the journalists waiting outside. He declared that he has not changed his stance concerning the need for new people in the government. There are speculations that this need expressed by Ilir Meta and the absence of SMI MPs in the plenary session yesterday are indicators of internal trouble in the ruling coalition. The head of the Socialist Parliamentary Group, Gramoz Ruci, seemed to be opposing this rumor, indicating that there were no such problems in the coalition. The issue of decriminalization was also one of the subjects of the meeting today, and Meta and Ruci both indicated support for the acceleration of the Commission's work. Mr. Ruci said that there is a possibility that the decriminalization law may be adopted by the end of this week. One of our journalists asked Mr. Meta about the letter from the State Supreme Audit. which requested the establishment of an investigative commission for the Chez issue. The Assembly Speaker replied that he has not received any letter as of yet. The Democratic chairman, Basha, says that he has the support of the highest leaders of the European institutions for the Democrats' decriminalization initiative. Mr. Basha has denounced the majority for showing a lack of will to implement the December agreement, which was reached with the mediation of the European Parliament. He made the following comments today. I have received support from the European institutions in our attitude on the decriminalization of Parliament, the central government, and the local governments. We are determined to adopt and implement the decriminalization law. The decision-making has been held captive by organized crime and oligarchy, and it must be returned to the hands of the public. This is our mission, said Mr. Basha. Regarding the Chez issue, the Democratic chairman reiterated his party's determination to see the issue through to the end. He said that a bill on the investigation of the issue has been submitted to Parliament, but the majority is doing everything they can to hamper the investigation and to keep the truth concealed. He continued, there must be an investigation supported by the internationals. 600 million euro have been taken. This is a sum of money equal to the entire pension fund in Albania, and it has been stolen. The State Supreme Audit has publicized the names of those responsible, the Minister of Energy and the state lawyer. We will not withdraw until this corrupted affair is resolved, said the Democratic chairman. A national conference on human trafficking was held today, and the European Union raised the issue as a serious concern. The EU ambassador Romana Vlahutin declared that Albania is still a source country for child trafficking. She was supported by the statements of other diplomats, who all called the Albanian authorities to enforce the laws. Ambassador Vlahutin had this to say, unfortunately, Albania remains a source country for child trafficking. The numbers are very concerning from May 2014 to August 2015, showing a significant increase in the number of people being trafficked. Most of the victims are women and children, and more than 1,000 families are suffering from this phenomenon. We will offer them our support. Albania has good laws, but implementing them is the most important thing, she said. The U.S. Ambassador Donald Blue also indicated that more needs to be done. He said, Albania has progressed against the trafficking phenomenon. The officials are being trained to help the trafficking victims, but more work needs to be done in the criminal code concerning the traffickers. The Vice Ambassador of the OSCE, Robert Wilton, also spoke briefly on the issue. Human trafficking is a big concern, and children are the most at risk from trafficking and exploitation. Forced labor requires special attention, and we expect to see concrete results in this regard, he said. In response to the human trafficking problem, the Interior Minister Saimir Tahiri announced a toughening of penalties for any parents who exploit their own children. He said, we have identified 340 children living in the streets, but the real number is higher. We have a decisive plan in the treatment of this problem. We will start to rigorously enforce the legislation in power, including the criminal legislation, which provides 10 years in prison for all parents who abandon their children. The Minister of Social Welfare announced that a public code will be drafted soon to help prevent the problem of human trafficking. That concludes our news edition for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us again tomorrow at the same time. Thanks, and have a great night.